few people to join. And,
Let me introduce Professor Achut.
Just a moment. I will just invite him. He's online.
I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
So, welcome, Professor Achut Wagle, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Kathmandu University. Professor, we want to thank you from core of our heart for extending all the help and wholeheartedly your commitment to organize this conference at your great university. But as I wrote to you, man proposes, God disposes. That was proved once again. So, friends, I personally invited Dr. Professor Achut Wagle to join this particular session and extend his best wishes and blessings for successful completion of this very, very important conference, which was scheduled to be organized at Kathmandu University in Kathmandu, Nepal. Professor Achut Wagle, a PhD, is a prominent Nepalese economist, academic, and public intellectual. He currently serves as the Vice Chancellor of Kathmandu University. Earlier, he held the position of the Registrar of the same university, Associate Dean of his School of Management, and Head of Management Sciences Department at the School of Management. He holds PhD in economics from the Great Institution of India, Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur. We all know that economics division of Kanpur, IIT Kanpur is very, very famous. He is MSc in economics from University of Birmingham, UK, and a master's from Tribhuvan University, Nepal. Professor Wagle is renowned for his pragmatic, data-driven approach to addressing Nepal's development challenges, having played a key role in bridging academia and policymaking through evidence-based advocacy. He is a seasoned weekly columnist to the Kathmandu Post and Kantipur, the most popular daily newspaper of Nepal. Professor Wagle teaches economics, econometrics, and other core courses in economics and research at Kusum, and his research interests include business environment, regional economy, fiscal federalism, and entrepreneurship. At this crucial juncture of the Nepal development, his role will be very, very, very important in reshaping and structuring Nepal economies and giving a wonderful time to Nepal. And I personally wanted to introduce him because I got a lot of support and help in organizing this event at Kathmandu University, but it could not happen. But Professor, we look forward that such event will be organized in future in Nepal, in Kathmandu University. So that is our basically plus. And once again, I welcome you to this a great conference. And I request Dr. Syed to proceed further. Dr. Syed.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Ramani. Professor Achut Wagle, we would like to hear from you.
Hello.
Please. Yeah, we'd like to hear from you.
Can I hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Should I start?
Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
please.
Thank you for such a great, generous introduction, Professor Indramani. It is our misfortune that despite all the arrangements, this opportunity to host you in Kathmandu University could not materialize. Nepal has been a land of revolutions. I always say that in every 10 years, we see big political upheaval here. And this is we are very much in critical juncture. Fortunately, it only lasted for 2 days, and things are settling down um, quite in good pace, I would say. Hopefully, by this evening or tomorrow, we're likely to have a new government, and the street are expected to be calmer. Despite all these odds, and I know your cancellation of travel arrangements, everything, you could manage to pull on this conference. That is a great initiative. I attach a great importance to this event for three particular reasons. One, the name itself says a lot. Asian Association of Agricultural Engineers. Seeing an Asian economy which is predominantly the agricultural base. I would not say agricultural dependent, but agricultural base, whether we talk about industrialization, export, or anything. So your contribution as agricultural engineers has been immense. That is one. Second, the future of Asia still lies for maybe next half a century in agriculture. If you think in terms of our prosperity, our trade balances, improving our trade balances, and our sustainable future, the agriculture is definitely at the center stage. So that is the second reason. Third, I think the whole Asia, when it is linked to agriculture, we share a great cultural and livelihood heritage. This is the land probably heavily dependent on rice, for example, in nutrition system. That is only one example. The kind of food habits, the kind of nutrition content. Asia is in a specific area. It has got a specific cultural and historical values in developing agriculture. For these three regions, I think all of you may have discussed in detail in your research papers, keynote addresses. I think the Professor Indramani delivered one keynote speech, Professor from Thailand delivered another keynote speech, and I'm sure all the participants, although online, could benefit greatly from your intellectual richness and the research and your recommendation for the future. I feel privileged to be part of this, despite, as I have already mentioned, we are not only facing physical difficulties, we have got a lot of mental stress in comprehending things and anticipating what would be the next kind of move from the government, from the people, from the agitators. So despite this, our colleagues in Kathmandu University, particularly Professor Bhim, could be with your team to manage this event. I would like to thank you, all of you, and giving me this forum. I feel honored for that. I only want to emphasize three another distinct things. First of all, when it comes to agriculture and climate change, when you try to link, whole Asia has been in the receiving end of the scientific developments which we thought were the greatest achievements of humanity. For example, pesticides. For example, chemical fertilizers. For example, genetic engineering and GMOs. And fourth also point is we dreamt of commercialization of agricultural products. That looked fine for last 50 years, but this is perhaps a time we need to take a long pause and evaluate it. First of all, I'm not blaming anybody. I repeat this theme very often. I did repeat this in the Conference of Agricultural Economists last month. Yes, these are not the scientific products developed in our part of the world. We are led to believe if you use excessive amount of chemical fertilizer, you will be more food secure. We were taught to spray pesticides, but we are not taught about their fallouts and ramifications. And then we thought when our production increases, we'll have easy access of market of these products to the larger consumer market like US, Europe, or any other affluent country. All these three myths are now busted. And we are facing a situation, and the narratives is increasingly created that what we do organically in producing agriculture is still the best. That is very big civilizational and academic question, because what we were practicing for maybe 3,000, 2,000, since 2,000 years in agriculture was considered, say, 200 or 300 years ago, is unscientific, unacademic, unsustainable. And we forcibly discarded all those practices. We discarded all those seeds that were climate resilient, indigenously grown. And they have got our own life of preserving. Our farmers had the technology to save the seeds in their own way when the farming season comes, from harvest to farming seasons. But after these experiments, when our soils are have largely become toxic, the salination, the desertification has hugely increased due to excessive use of chemicals, chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and ecosystem is already destroyed. And when we largely became dependent on this, now we are told that, okay, one organic is acceptable if you want to exploit. That is very critical when the scientific community thinks as it. So I cannot expect anybody to go back, put a reverse gaze on the gear on research, scientific achievements, but it is high time we also look into those knowledge systems that our ancestors preserved for generations, and that has a direct link to climate change, I would say. If our system of worshipping rivers, worshipping lands, worshipping fields, worshipping harvest season, different, it may be different in different Asian cultures. If that had respected, our rivers would not have so much polluted. We have reached to a stage we cannot irrigate our farms from the rivers that flow at our neighborhood. So I think the balance between science, scientific discovery, and use of scientific knowledge vis-a-vis the climate resilience and the sustainable agriculture part is critical. We need to appreciate the thousands of indigenous technologies that are there, the resilient ways of farming. Although productivity may be a little less, but the nutrient components of our products and the so-called genetically modified product is hugely different. We are talking about the effects on the cancer of genetically modified products and the medicinal effect of the indigenous product. That is being only told, and this needs to be reestablished scientifically through our systemic scientific research. Second, I want to talk about the technology, which is very, very critical. I have been great fan of the Professor Sulj, who has in length talked about the mechanization of the agriculture. That is required, definitely required. And then the all other facilitation, like in irrigation, we have developed that saves water and that optimizes the use of our own resources using different technologies. That is always welcome. What I'm only trying to emphasize here is that we need a very good fusion of what is sustainable and what is how much technology we can use in terms of commercialization. Of course, the value chain, the access to market, the price fairness of the agricultural product, directly may not fall into the domain of agricultural engineering. But if we fail to think in terms of ecosystem, from automation, from mechanization, from use of the scientific ways of doing it, in embedding those with climate sustainability, and ensuring our products reach into the market and they get fair pricing without much of the damage, even in the process of the pesticides, using pesticides and preservatives. It is critical. That is where the scientists should support the farming community, the commercialization of the commercialization of the agriculture, and creating economies of scale. So one of the biggest bottlenecks of the Asian agriculture has been in the large part of our continent, agriculture has largely been subsistence. It is particularly relevant. This evidence is particularly contextual with regard to Nepal. So I think all these things needs to be looked into in a unbreakable cycle, an ecosystem, which I would like to say. Then only we will be able to do, which as great experienced professors and researchers would take into consideration instead of taking a very monolithic view. Final point I would like to talk about is the food security and global access to market of our agricultural products. When the international institutions like GATT and WTO came into existence, we thought that the access to market to any developing country would be fair. This will be a whole global market available to every small or big economies and every product if there are consumers. But that essentially did not happen. There is a very repeated narrative created these days is WTO is already dead for several regions. Some regions it could not ensure that justice in trade to the economies. Second, the protectionism of the developed consumer market did not stop despite these mechanisms. They may not have come in a very straight way. They may have come in the form of agricultural infrastructure development, constructing railway lines or highways to connect the farms with the market. But when the issue of subsidy and issue of food security comes into the underdeveloped and developing countries, that has been the huge challenge for the governments to wade through the maze of legal provisions created by the institutions like WTO. So what actually happens is the fairness in international trade in agriculture is gone. And there are increasing conditionalities to repeat the phytosanitation, the nutrient content verification, certificate of origin. Several of these things are proving to be very Herculean for the farmers who have tried to produce a commercial scale, in be that the rice of Indonesia, Thailand, or India, or anything you name it that is produced in Asian countries. So what is actually happening is we fail to integrate our economies in Asia. When we talk about the economic integration in these regions, we may have talked in 1,000 different topics and things, but at least we should have been integrate the agricultural economy, consumption, and supply chain of the agricultural products. It already had an advantage because we have got the similar food habits, food cultures. There may be some variations, the kind of spices we use, kind of flavors we use, kind of food tradition we have, kind of the agricultural gods we worship for generation and generation. It would have definitely provided us the greater advantage. But we tried to compete with some of the other markets that even forgetting about the distance and the nevertheless always has got an advantage. So it is for the policymakers and the academics who need to re-explore these kind of engagements, how successful of our engagements, mutuality in terms of agricultural product has been. And it is exactly the point where I also want to talk about the issue of the climate resilient agriculture. We have failed to profile our species of agricultural products, herbal products, which have been climate resilient for hundreds of thousands of years. So what actually has been is the multinational companies. Now, very often comes to into mind is the Monsanto. When it was only American company, they joined hands with the Germans, and they are the big players in terms of providing seeds, in terms of matching the kind of fertilizer with those seeds, the irrigation seasonality with those kind of crops. I think we need to reinvent this field. How much have we been able to optimize those products? How much have they ensured our food security systems? I have hundreds of stories here by the farmers. The whole season of their crops have gone without any harvest, without yielding any harvest because of mismatch of their seed products. And then probably the technology processes our farmers were not educated properly to do that. So I think those whole gamut of things, why I am mentioning probably maybe 100 different topics here as subtopics here is we have got a great scope to work. We have got great scope to collaborate. So in Kathmandu University, we are always ready to collaborate with this great scientific and technological communities to produce meaningful academic outputs and also make it applicable in the field. Our agricultural scientists are instantly finding jobs in Israel, in US, everywhere. But our work culture we have developed is that our great agricultural scientists hardly willing to go into the mud of the field. So it applies in animal sciences, many other sciences as well. So I think we probably need to have a responsibility for the university to change the academic culture and to translate our academic research outputs, patents, making them applicable to our farming community and in our economies. Final point I would like to make is the greatest challenge we are now facing in Nepal in particular, and that may apply to India and countries like Indonesia and Thailand, is the land tenure system. So even if we are very keen to commercialize the farming products, agricultural products, the patch of the lands suitable for commercial farming is being very limited. We enjoy the hundreds of hectares of single pass is full with the flower planting in one piece and the rice planting, wheat planting in another piece in Western countries. That is where the mechanization, automation can produce the economies of scale. That is economic in every sense of the term. But if we do not have got the proper land tenure system, particularly for the agriculture, looking in the futuristic part of it, and if we are not able to use the modern technologies where the smaller patches of land and the vertical agriculture can also produce yield better products, I think we need to reinvent that given the level of education of our farmers and the availability of the opportunity to invest, commercialize, and provide access to market. I think it's a huge field. All my apologies for not being able to invite you to Kathmandu this time, but not only your wish, we are very keen to invite this great scientific community in Kathmandu for the not only for academic discourses, we want to take you to some fields, the kind of traditional agricultural technology we have been using. The way, one particular example I would like to give is when I was very young, there was always a dam making week in a year, every year. So before the rice planting season, the whole village community would go and construct a dam without cement. So when the plantation would complete, then the monsoon season would come down, and then the rest of the irrigation would be provided by the monsoon, but the plantation would be done with the irrigation. And everybody knew that in every season that dam would be swept away by the flood by September, and then they would be very keen to preserve some of the big boulders and stones for the next year. There is no question of losing flora, fauna, ecosystem, and there was a great community feeling. But with cement, with technologies, we probably constructed so-called irrigation systems, and they are not fully functional the way we should expect, and the flora and fauna, fishes, and the river systems in both upper and lower riparian basins have impacted greatly. So what I'm trying to emphasize here is a huge fit. When the Himalayas are gone, our major river system in South Asia will be gone because of the climate change, the temperature rise, the life cycle of the plants is changing with the rise in temperature. I think there is immense field for research. That is what I would like to emphasize, not trying to listing them. And finally, I would say thank you for this